So I guess in that vein, right? In the you know, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought Deadlock was. So yeah, I guess I.
Ah,
Oh, burp, but no.
dropped my fucking phone and scared my shit.
Yeah, careful. Um, so yeah, I played about 7 hours or so of Deadlock.
Oh, that's way more than I thought you were gonna say.
I gave it a full shot, and I really wanted to interface and see what was going on there. Um, and so one thing that's
That's
not
about as much as I've played, actually.
okay. So one thing that works out is I've gotten pretty comfortable with the Razer Tartarus, which is the palm keyboard thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically like putting that on my lap while having the mouse over here on the couch. It's like, okay, I've found a way to be comfortable with this, even without the cube setup. I can rest my wrist in a way that has like very little stress for it. So that's pretty much an answer for doing the WASD thing.
That is a cool looking gizmo.
When using, I did try to use the pad directly with Deadlock, and it tells you this game doesn't support controllers, but it does.
It does. It literally does.
It does, but it doesn't have all its functions. There's certain things you cannot do, and it's like clearly like, yeah, if you really really want to, and you have a keyboard next to you, you can do this. But and they're clearly working on it, but there's enough missing there that you feel like you wouldn't be able to properly play or so.
It's not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
It will be, but it's not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Um, Someone just wrote, okay, a message just popped up. Deadlock is fun, but it really highlights for me that I hate MOBAs. Everything just takes too much time, killing rounds, etc.
Oh, it takes forever.
It is funny because I have learned a good bit from this experience that I've had. This is the most MOBAing I've ever done. And
Oh yeah, no, you got your fucking foot in it. If you played 7 hours, what is that, like 10 games? That's a yeah, you know now.
And some training modes and some going through the different characters and stuff. And I also like had a good discussion with this with Esteban as well, who was in town for a bit, like just talking about like the differences with Dota and League and everything. So in the discussions last week, where it went into like the shop and the fighting game comparisons, etc. A lot of people were very upset at the things I had to say about all that, and it is what it is. I
think there was a really genuinely hilarious post, which was where it was like directly quoting you. That was like, if I wanted to play Binding of Isaac, I'd play fucking Binding of Isaac.
Right.
And then someone posted the Lei Wulong stance chart.
Yes,
from Tekken 8. And that thing is the most nightmarish input guide I've ever seen.
And there's an even more nightmarish version that wasn't used, you know.
And I looked at that and I went, Woolie doesn't play Lei Wulong, but that's still pretty funny.
I hate that. I'm not doing that. That's crazy. That's insane. But either way, regardless, it doesn't matter how many ways you break it down, because ultimately it does kind of shake down to, hey, I enjoy this genre and I don't appreciate that you don't like those things, and it's like, yeah, that's okay, so that's fine. And and there's certainly been enough of the like the way I talk about fighting games makes some people like anti-fighting games, which I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna try to talk about stuff in the news and my week, and we can have a
what
you're
saying, you're just playing footsies with your words with these people?
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah, and then there's the part where I'm like, as a person who, like, the more time goes on and the more I feel how much I don't know about other genres, the more I'm just like, right, I should try to branch out and develop my vocabulary and understanding of things in a much more complete way, so that when I shit on it, I can shit on it from a point of. Like,
I remember that I talked about it in the podcast. It was like 2 years ago.
From a point of education.
I was like, MOBAs are this like massive blind spot. They're so popular, and that was also during the period in which you and I were doing like bi-weekly podcast topics of why can't fighting games be as popular as this shit that I don't play and I don't know anything about. And I went, I have to understand. And so I went and played League, and it's like, oh, there's shit here. There's shit
there's
here.
Things here.
And then I hit that wall, which was like, oh, all of these people are here too. Jesus Christ. Holy fuck.
And I also, in talking about this too with and about the genres and like where a lot of the fun and tactical play is to be found and stuff, that all prefaces this experience that I've had with Deadlock, which I can say my takeaway is this: the game is very fun and has some super awesome like plays you can make with your team to like fucking annihilate a lane, push at the same time, coordinate, and turn the whole game around on like a dime.
There's some wild swings and some definite ability to make plays.
And that is super hype for like commentary, spectator kind of moments, and there's a field of tactical plays happening across the whole thing, and because there's lanes as well going along, there's a lot of variability, to
crap, blue over there is losing their lane, I should swing around and help them. All that.
Now no character switching in the match, right? Like you're locked into who you're in. Yeah, there's no like team shooter kind of counterplay moments or so, but like a failing strategy on a push means like, are we early game? Okay, cool. Like get back in and readjust. But a failing strategy, a failing push late in the game, it's like that is a minute you are sitting out.
It's a disaster.
That is humongous, and a team wipe is absolutely annihilating because your whole team is gone for a fucking minute.
Now you're in the position of like, well, we better win the one on our doorstep or we're done.
That's it, right? Yeah. Each of these little stopping points, are mini objectives that you can, approach. And depending on, I guess, your team composition or who's in your lane and all that, you can get through it faster or just go around and annoy people by jumping across and jungling, right, as it were. All of that shit is super unique and comes from a place where I think you have to evolve a genre from just RTSing to I want to focus on these characters fighting and just let the fucking bases spit their own shit out at each other.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just go and do our thing, and then mix and match your objectives as you push up. I think that while understanding and seeing all that fun, I also know now that MOBAs are not for me. 100%.
Is it because of the laning phase?
It's
because that's like 20 minutes.
I'm still I don't think I'm gonna have the right words to fully put it all together, and I might even go back in more to get more words, if that makes any sense.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like I know that because I'm like, okay, I'm talking into a microphone here and I want to accurately give my opinions. I might have to go play more to be able to fully flesh that out. But there's
get more words.
Yeah, but there's small things and there's larger things, and as a whole, I can say that I'm respecting what I'm seeing happening when I'm watching how other people do things and stuff. I'm like some of the plays that are happening. I'm not having a ton of fun with this entire concept.
Oh yeah. So like basically you're doing the big team fights at the end and you're like, now we're getting to the meat, but all the building on the way there is like, when do I get to the fireworks factory?
Well, even the meat, right? Even the meat of the shootouts and stuff. I do think that something that is interesting about that I do like is like because of the way the lanes work, you have a ton of dynamic environments to have these like firefights from that isn't quite the same as like fighting on the point or fighting like when you push in like a team team shooter. There's kind of like set choke points that are going to repeat often. Here there's a lot of those, but like because there's so many across these different lanes, you have a pretty different experience a lot of the time, whether you come up on one side or go the other way and stuff. So there's a lot of variability to it. But I do just kind of think that a lot of what I guess I'm not having fun with is the amount of the amount of the game that's spent more or less kind of alone and or PvEing things in a way.
Yeah.
There's so much of the game that is like, yeah, based on just working your way up with bots and shopping, and like working on these damage sponge mini bosses.
Right.
That I kind of was like,
what you're describing in League terminology is why there are the different lanes and how those metas evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're describing as like the pure laning phase, which is the PvE part, and the little footsie back and forth with like maybe one person where you're not really engaging, you're just kind of poking at each
rushing
other.
Too far in gets you killed. That's stupid. So we both just hang
That
back.
is like the epitome of the top lane in like League. That's my favorite part of the game.
Okay.
And that is why the jungler and the like carry roles exist. Roaming problem causers.
Pick people off.
Who are more focused on ruining other people's day than engaging with the PvE metagame.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, I think that that seems to be the case. I've had people tell me like, oh, I would probably like top laning or I'd probably like jungling. I've heard those two things come back to me a lot. So it's like,
I like top, you like jungle. That's how it would basically break down.
But things that would be me playing a lot more directly with the opponent as opposed to with the PvPing more than PvEing. But it's quite clear in moments where like a fight breaks out and it's like 3v3 on one lane and I'm taking someone out, so I'm winning an exchange, and then someone runs off to go into a room where the neutrals are, for example.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can go chase you down and get that kill, but is that worth it versus pressing on and taking out this boss right here?
Great question. The answer's fucking maybe.
Maybe, right? If you're gonna go away for a minute, then yes, it is worth it to chase you down. But otherwise, let me just take out this boss and push. But like, I kind of am like,
okay. The situation you just described has an underneath thing of should I even push?
Yes. And
because if it's too early in the game and your boys push out, that makes it really easy for the other team to scoop up that XP without any risk.
Right. And some people will like you can, because early in the game when you're killing things, if you don't steal or deny, like you still get 50%, but like after 10 minutes or so,
10 minutes,
it's a full steal, right?
It's all full steal and deny.
Yeah. So then you have no ability to jump back on the hook and speed your way to the other end, and all that compounds on itself. But when somebody breaks off from the fight to disengage and run into that neutral room away from the where the boss is, I'm like, oh, there goes the fun. you know? I'm like, oh, fuck, get back here. I want to fight you. I'm like, okay. Back to laning, and and so I guess too as well, and this is where like playing different characters, will bring out different aspects of the game. I tried to also experience, a decent range. So looking through the cast and stuff, I saw, I'm like, oh yeah, here's a cool character. There's I'm like, oh, here's Lash, who does a bunch of cool melee stuff, right? That seems
he's your chaser.
Yeah, so I'm like, that seems like someone that I would fit into the archetype that I kind of usually go for. Well, how about I just grab like Lady Geist instead and see what the fuck that is? All right, let me just.
Well,
go
she's weird.
Direction. Very weird. Oh, grab, heal, weird. Just damage on different groups. And so, as much as it's like, oh, I would go with what's his name? Lash? Okay, well, no, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go somewhere else. And I tried to get I tried to get a wide range. So in the end, I think I messed a bit around with. I spent most of my time playing 7, which is
7 just got. He had like a 90% pick rate, some shit like that. He's really good.
Because just looking at it, I was like, this seems pretty simple. I can get my head around it, where the damage comes from and how, and what you're supposed to do.
His ult's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and it looked like a pretty decent way to just get your bearings. So I was like, okay, cool. Big damage orb and smaller damage orbs, while buffing your ability to bounce bullets and shooting at shit. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty straightforward. And that helps me to also like get a feel for the rest of the game and the things you're doing and what you're paying attention to. When people give little notifications about like, oh, hey, push this lane, or so give you like little hints while pinging. That's nice because I'm like, as someone who's, I don't want to jump on comms ever. It is if you're playing with people that are indicating where you should focus your attention, that helps me a lot because I can tell in this game that as the weak link that doesn't know how to play on the team, I am absolutely a liability, right? One person being bad on this team carries you way down by comparison to an
You can
Overwatch.
fucking feel it.
Right?
It's like, oh.
It's huge. It's huge.
That's feed.
And it's a long ass game, for sure. So I felt like, I mean, every time when I'd rush up ahead in a way that was like, oh, I pushed too far and I didn't know I was pushing too far and I just got blown up in seconds. And now, exactly, feeding, right? Feels bad. Timer goes up. This genre really punishes you having a weak link on your
there's
team.
there's like a voice in your chest that goes, yo, you made a mistake.
Yes. So
you're like, oh,
right.
fucking shit.
And so to that end, I kind of immediately internalized anything is better than dying, including literally turning around, jumping back on the skyhook, and zipping back over.
Oh, you're completely right.
You know, like,
congrats, you've learned that lesson well.
Yeah, like the time it would take you to disengage completely, and like you fucked up by like they have one less person on the field, but you didn't die and take forever to spawn.
You didn't give them anything,
and you gave them no XP as well, right? So just super lame and such. So that becomes understood as well. But to that end, I suppose, like even when I grabbed, I played mostly with 7. Then for the backups, I wanted to learn Shiv and Wraith. So you know, again, pretty simple as well, like with the knife and damage healing.
Shiv's cool
and teleporting. Yamato seemed like I was like, oh, are you gonna be like a sword melee? Am I gonna get like a, you know, kind of like magic kind of vibe from you? And it's like, no, not really. You have a sword and you're getting up close, but you're still FPSing for the most part with each one of these characters. There's no like pure melee in that regard. And I could see that like Abrams is a nice beginner pick as well, in the sense that you're alive long enough to learn from your decisions and back up.
Abrams is a really good character for new players.
But something that is interesting about this genre as well is that because these fights with the other players would happen so much less frequently than an Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, you have less chances to learn the matchups.
And matchups are complex.
Yeah. And so I'm like, there's a bunch of these characters, but like I was able to learn very quickly. I'm like, oh, there's a Venom. Okay, jumps over the line, fucking target, don't let him disrupt you, right? There's a Hela, she's dangerous, you got to focus that, or find that Adam Warlock back there. Where's he going? You know, and you have these engaging, and the whole match is learning these situations.
Yeah, like
quickly.
but also like the matchups change depending on what the other guys are running equipped. So like there's let's take Abrams as a really good example. Is Abrams running a purely defensive like regen build, or are they running a melee build? If they're running a purely defensive regen build, unless you have a lot of damage going out, don't even fight them. You won't kill them.
What's the point?
Right? If they're running a melee build, don't let them touch you. But you're only going to find that out upon death, or like looking over their bullshit. Can you do that in Deadlock? Can you look over the enemy's item nonsense? Like on the pause screen or what have you?
I have no idea, but you can see how much XP they have with the souls I guess they've collected.
Oh, you can? Okay,
you can.
Yeah. So you can like when you die, you'd be like, oh, what do they got going on over there?
It's also kind of wild to see like a full game of like that many people get paused and resume. That you could actually do that is crazy.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah.
The other day before they patched, you could like 3 people per team could just pause for like 10 minutes at a time.
That's crazy. I mean, you still can pause, you know, but
yeah,
but it's you know, and there's that little fun melee game as well of like you can do a quick melee, charge melee to blow up the creep and get the full XP for it, or if you're doing it to a person, they can press parry and deflect it and return the damage.
And then they take huge damage from your melee.
But yeah, what I was just saying before that was, oh yeah, so and like you can have these decisions you make where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna not die, so let me back off, let me jump back on the hook, run around the corner, relax, and if the fight is still going, I can still be useful by just stealing souls from the enemy that
Hey,
float
these
up.
guys are busy. They are not paying attention to this.
And I suck, so
Yeah.
let me just contribute in a minor way by denying them XP. You know, and it's like, okay, cool. And then you hang out long enough that somebody else that's way better comes in, and you're like, great. Now there's another, and now there's four of us, and let's push on and stuff. So I those moments feel like, yeah, like what these kind of games are made for. I I just like, I'm like, there would be so, I would enjoy more the ability to learn these exchanges and moments and matchups if I could fight the other people more frequently, you know? And and I do think as well that, I guess, like, you know, playing playing the right character would seeking that out then also becomes something where it's like, if you're looking for fights, you better know what the fuck you're doing, right? Because if you're jungling or picking fights and then you run into people and just die, like, that sucks. You're also feeding, right?
I mean,
you're being
the game
terrible.
is super early, and like them throwing you at your lanes at random means that there's like no meta established. There's probably going to be an iteration of this game in which there are characters that are going to be just fully dedicated to roaming.
Right.
And as somebody who is fully dedicated to roaming, your main job would be scooping up XP where you can and making sure that other people win their lanes.
I also
because you're turning 1-on-1s into 2-on-1s. And
I also
whatnot.
don't know if it was helpful or not, but I had a couple games where I tried, like, just going straight to their base and, like, drawing everyone's attention away from the fights to run back to deal with me as I was shooting at their, you know, final base thing, or taking up their, you know. And it was like, yeah, in a lot of cases, and in a couple cases, they would just rush up as a team, absolutely gank me, and go back to where they were, but that was enough time for the rest of the team to, you know, continue pushing and stuff. So yeah, just whatever, like, splitting up the attention and kind of annoying in that way seems like, okay, there's a benefit to this, but it would probably be more worth it if I could get away from everybody and live, instead of just getting killed 100% of the time when they run back, you know? So got to experience some of that as well. There's an aspect of this game that is doing a lot for what I'm hitting up against too, and that is ultimately just aesthetic, feel, flow, and style. You know,
yeah, that is all very up in the air. Like, the last patch added wall jumping, which is like a very significant change to the way that game feels.
Okay, I only played it. I only booted it up when that was there.
Yeah, no, that was not there the week prior.
Okay, so it is nice that you can do a dash, jump, and then an air dash. You know, it is nice that you can spend a lot of the time jumping off the hook and having these air moments, and, you know, like the sky hooking stuff adds a good speed and verticality to the fights. There's ladders to climb, you know, and the stages are there's a lot of buildings you can get on top of where you otherwise would just be using them as cover points in some of the other team shooters, I would say. So that is cool. There's an element of, I guess, just roughness to the way everything moves. There's a jank to a lot.
There are buildings that have no textures.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the earliest game I have ever seen open to casual like play of the average person ever. It is so fucking early. I remember when I said, like, I think this game might come out in 18 months or 2 years, you made like a little face where you're like, come on. And it's like, no, man, this shit is so fucking early.
It definitely does need some time to cook. I'm not in love with the characters and style with them as well. Like, I'm not. We talked about how it's way better than Concord.
But that's not fair.
That's a comparison point, right? And I'm gonna just be this. I'm gonna be annoying and keep talking about Rivals because of how much of an impact it made. You know.
Yeah, no, the rival design, like that, dude. The Chinese anime shit looks good.
I would be. So if I didn't play Rivals recently and have the impression I did, I'd probably struggle a bit more with a lot of this stuff, and I think I'd be like, not sure, but I want it to be more like, and then I'd say something that it's like, that's another genre that doesn't relate, Woolie, and it's like, no, but being third person, I kind of would still want but Rivals being third person and being a team shooter is like, okay, like the way that flows, because that's, early too, not as early certainly, but it's certainly, there's a lot less jank to it, but like also design wise, aesthetic wise, yeah, I do. When I look at the icon at the end that you're shooting, the big orb machine, when I look at the types of mini bosses you're shooting at or the little creep things, I'm like, none of those things look interesting to me at all. It's like a big dumb robot face, and it's a big dumb sphere. It makes me
feel better that like literally every single asset in this current build of the game will likely be gone.
Okay. I'm like, none of the damage sponge things you shoot at that are part of the creep lane or bases are interesting at all to me. I just don't find them particularly notable. I'll
tell you what, they're better than fucking towers. The usual Guardian equivalent is literally like a
just a building
Protoss tower.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I think the big head sphere at the end is just like, I'm shooting a sphere texture with a face on it. Like, yeah, all right, sure. That could all be like, it could be anything, right? But I don't know, like to just grab a recent ass pull of something. When you blow up a base in Helldivers, it fucking is this big hell inferno factory with with the fire shooting out of the thing, and then you laser it and it blows up. And you're like, look at that go, anything can be anything. I don't feel anything from these assets as that I'm running around.
Because it's fucking placeholder.
Yes,
we're actually playing with placeholder assets, with like gray box parts of the levels.
Okay, so I'm curious to see if what we're looking at will be like a completely different thing entirely, or is it still going to be a robot but it'll look a bit more finished?
So
with a sphere head, but it'll still look more finished.
I think the cursed apple aesthetic of like the noir-ish stuff is gonna remain overall. But like just like I think it was like last year, this was like a futuristic shooter called like Neon something that took place in like the space future, and everything was completely different.
Okay, because if you're saying, if folks are saying this is an experimental alpha, it's super alpha, this all stuff is going to change, then it's like, if you're talking about that end Guardian thing, like turning into a slightly more rendered out spherehead statue robot.
I'm saying that like this is literally placeholder.
Okay, so it'll be a completely different thing.
The big enemy in the middle of the fucking map, is just the same as the small enemies. It's just scaled up.
Okay.
It has no it is placeholder.
Okay, so right now we're just feeling out the flow of the game, and the rest of that we'll wait and see. All right.
It is wild that you can stream this game and send it to all of your friends in this state. I can't think of anything else I could compare it to that people were allowed to fuck with this early, like ever.
I mean, I remember when you could go back to the live test, like Skullgirls builds where like they disappear for some frames.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? The versions of Skullgirls where you see the fucking asset not available, or
the PTR
betas.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Warcraft 3 betas where enemies were just like little black and white concept pieces of art moving around on your screen.
Okay. So yeah, I would like to see that all look and feel a lot better. I think like, and in terms of just running around in 3D and navigating the environment, like, I guess just like if you, my comparison, I guess, would be a character like like the way you run around as Black Panther or I mean, not even to say Spider-Man, but Anyone else that's like that has a lot of verticality to the way they play in Rivals. I would like to see that level of fluidity come to this as well.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Perhaps not.
Like
Perhaps not.
bluntly, like this game is always going to be more feet on the ground, normal.
Yeah.
Because it's focusing so much on the like high level of complexity with the environment and all the fucking enemies.
But I do think that like those little things, like they do kind of make me go like, I kind of want to play this a little. Like they're all just little things that make me get pulled in a little less, you know, as opposed to being like super in love with any one particular aspect of this, right? And like I don't have that part. I haven't felt that yet with the core of what's going on here. I looking at the shopping now, like yeah, even the like the recommended tabs, it is nice to be able to just float the mouse over and go more life, more damage.
Yeah, it feels like part
stealing.
of the fighting game analogy, but it's like the little recommended combos
Sure.
up in the top right of your shit.
Yeah. So that all feels like, okay, I'm just going to, you know, click on those green ones and get my health and do this, and like not spend a whole bunch of. I didn't spend too much time going through the shop, but I did spend enough time to be like, I like these things, and I'm going to give myself that advantage. But yeah, that kind of is where I land. I think for now is that the genre as a whole has an overall tactical design that has a lot of stuff that I don't really feel super drawn towards.
When are you gonna fucking try Dota 2 now?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but
I would genuinely say, Woolie, go to download Dota 2 and do the tutorial just to see the level of absurdity the people making this game are willing to throw at you mechanically. Because I think that buying things from the shop, sending a flying animal to buy them from the shop and then fly back to you, and then the enemy can kill that flying animal and take your shit off the ground is unhinged.
Yeah. I always know at this point, we're in an era where the most popular video games on planet Earth are things that are mods and derivatives of other main genres, right? So RTS, people get good enough and want more of a specific thing streamlined to the point that we get these. You get your FPS games that streamline to eventually like a Counter-Strike type of thing, and then you get your Counter-Strike popularity to this hyper simulator kind of like realistic shooting. But then another direction is like the
you know what I would say there
is the battle royale format, right?
I would say that like Counter-Strike led less to hyper realistic shooters like Arma. I actually think that like Flight Simulator and Truck Simulator fucking nerds actually were the popular through line to shit like Arma or stuff like that.
Okay.
The sim weirdo crowd.
Okay. I once again preface that I barely know what I'm talking about. I can hardly get these words out of my mouth at any given time. But
yes,
it feels like a lot of the most popular games they came from a thing that was a fan twist on the original thing.
Yeah,
and we've been seeing that happen over time.
You want a lime in your tequila? Yeah, sure, I'll take a lime.
And so the more that happened, the more it was like, hey, do you have any familiarity with that original thing? Or is the original thing just a series of like shortcut like interactions for you at this point? Then you're going to feel real comfortable getting past all that at this point. Which again does certainly apply to, if I'm going to bring it up, fighting games. That exists too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
A lot of shortcutting. We talk about how they mentioned the word a tatsu input in Terry's description of his moves. It's like that's shortcutting for people who've been around this thing for a while, you know. So this applies to all genres certainly. But yeah, I think basically that like even back as far as the StarCraft 2 days and such, and StarCraft 1 days, where I kind of talked about like, I got into some StarCraft certainly and played with friends and played the campaigns, but didn't really go into like a ton of BattleNet PvPing like out in the wild as much. That means that like the bones of this genre are always something I've struggled with to some degree, and so I can still feel that even this far removed.
You're like
FPS.
multi-genre blends over to the side, and it's like, yeah, but that Warcraft 3 shit, that Warcraft 3 Heroes shit that you complained as far back about as 2004,
the first time they
still
introduced
there.
it.
It's actually the core.
But I certainly played enough to see what was cool and to see what the exciting points are and like what the plays are, you know. I think as well there's some stuff that I don't know whether to say like, oh, it's alpha, we might see this later, or to say, oh, you're never going to see it. I don't know, but I'll say this. I like when you have these moments of like co-op builds that work together and play together, that you can, you know, there's things like that work in Overwatch. You know, Ana puts someone to sleep and then the team goes in. You know, Zarya's ult is, you know, brings everyone together, and then
everybody who ever has a quote unquote suck ult,
sure, right, a lot of that
is like the most obvious team play thing ever.
Yeah, and I know that so League of Legends has team play stuff too as well, where people can get launched up and like set up for another person to get the kill and stuff. There's a lot of like those moments. Marvel Rivals does an amazing job of building them into the character and giving you the team advantage clear. Like besides the like, there's stuff where it's like, you know, this is a really smart way to play by having these two kit things come together. But when they're like, hey, Rocket Raccoon can put down a thing that buffs Punisher's gun, and that's a part of what you want to pay attention to, it's really well implemented. You know, it's very like when you pick the character, it shows up. When you're looking at the move list, it's like, hey, there's fusion things you can do, and it reminds you constantly.
You don't need Jimmy the Dota Man to tell you, yo, dude, Rocket's great for peeling Punisher.
Sure.
You got to play max peel on mid. And you go, what the fuck?
If you're feeling insane enough to pick a team where your DPS is Black Panther and Magic instead of something more reliable, then all right, you fucking nut, you get a teleport for these two characters. Have fun. You're insane. You know,
you want to do stupid teleport shit? Here you go.
Yeah,
that seems up your alley, weirdos.
Are you a Hela that has amazing aim? Well, you convince two other people on your team to pick the Odin Bros because you can res them. You know.
Hey, let me ask you, when you were playing Deadlock, were you playing it and were you at minute 35? And you just were playing by yourself, and despite not being on voice chat, you uttered "push."
No, I didn't.
You're not there yet.
No. Most of my time is spent going, where should I be pushing? Where can I? Every time I went, where can I be the most helpful right now? Should I be doing my job, or should I be, you know, like it was a lot of that. And I if you're getting annoyed at me comparing this to Rivals all the time, I can only use the pieces that exist in my white room. I can only use the things that exist in my room. I can't talk about what I don't know. So
also, like, they're direct, like, temporal contemporaries.
Two players coming together to do cool things in the PvP or even PvE moments. I would like that to also be like more clear and or a more obvious thing, because I like how they did it in Rivals, and it would be nice if it was here too. And if it's not here too, and it's never been that way, that's okay. I thought it was here, cool.
But it's not like a noted interaction. It's like let's take Kelvin for example, right? Kelvin has the box, which is the best ability. It's my favorite ability that anyone can have in those games, which is the fucking box that you lock shitheads in with you. Who works well as with Kelvin in the box, right? Like, that's not a design interaction. It's just like, no, who has fun in the box?
And the description of them characters will have a thing that says like, hey, if you're picking Invictus, you know, you'll see the thing that's like, run in with your run ability and then do your explosion ability, and like these combo together. Or if you're playing the hook robot, you can do a combo like a Roadhog combo, as we mentioned, and it's meant to do 1, 2, 3, and like these things come together as a plan. It'll tell you that. The things where it's like, I guess, combine Abrams' big Thor drop ult, with like a vacuum sucked together. Those things are like, yeah, that I feel like that would be an obvious good use of it, to coordinate those moments. But I like that I saw a game directly telling you about these things, and I am like, oh, I want to see other games tell you about like how to properly get the best of two characters that worked well together on the same team. I mean, there's one character that is all about being on buddying up with you, right? The little rat.
Oh, the fucking little gargoyle girl.
Yeah, like that's like, oh, actually plays better picking a character to follow.
There was a play that went up on the subreddit where somebody was playing as her and grabbed Seven, and he did his ult, and she like dragged him across multiple fucking lanes as an invincible Tesla.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it, and I can again touch a bit more, fill in a bit more as we go, and see what happens when this game comes full circle and releases. But I'm assuming because it's a Valve game that it also has the benefit of time and money. And
oh, you mean, so one of the things that I'm like, hey, this is super alpha, is that they could just work on this for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Before even saying it's 1.0, but it doesn't matter because it's still going to be free. So Deadlock just exists, and it will just slowly improve over time as Valve forces it to exist forever.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess I don't know if there's other examples of like launch version Valve game versus like, early first look where you have a complete like night and day difference in a lot of the things I'm discussing. But anyway, all that to say that that's the impression I got.